Tuesday Night Live with Risen the Dog as we break new ground. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here bringing you baseball along with Jeff the Dog Healy. We are breaking new ground tonight, folks. We are in sort of like the test mode here, but if you're on Facebook and you're following us on the Facebook page, everything should go pretty swimmingly smoothly. And if you're trying us out on YouTube, Twitch, or Periscope/Twitter, it might not go so great. But if it does, then it's awesome. So you can follow us on all these places at Diamond Diehards. That's on Twitter. You can also check us out there on Instagram, Facebook.com/Diamond Diehards. So we're migrating you over from the group to the page now. So if you've been following us on the Facebook group, switch over to the Facebook page. It takes the word group out of there. It's really quick to get to. And, it should be pretty good. And it should help us grow. And it should help us get the word out there. So, Jeff Healy, 8 on Twitter. That's how you can follow the dog. You can follow me on Twitter at Rear Naked Choke, all one word. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, you could do that too. Joe Rizzo MMA over there. And once again, if you want to follow us on Twitch, it's also Diamond Diehards. There's no at, it's just twitch.tv/Diamond Diehards. And the YouTube link, I don't think we have Diamond Diehards on YouTube yet, but look around wherever you're finding this, and you could click and find our YouTube page there. We're going to start posting all these videos there as well. We want you to listen when you are not near a live stream, and you could subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you find them. Please subscribe. We would love for you to do that. So as we break new ground, we keep with old traditions. And if you're new to the show, we appreciate you coming on. We're going to talk about some baseball here in a little bit. But first, the way we kick off all these shows is with the dog coming in and giving us Veteran of the Day. Dog? All right, dog. So that's a good way to get it started. He invented baseball, and we're inventing new ways to get. Well, I mean, he's credited for inventing baseball, but whatever. And we're inventing new ways to get diamond diehards out to people. So if fortunately, our Twitch and our YouTube, and well, maybe not our Twitter so much, are a little stealth to people right now. And in fact, your audio is not coming over those channels. So, but if you're on Facebook, we're good there. We're good there. So we will get that figured out for the next time. Jerry Milani, awesome, has taken hours and hours to help me out to try to get me into the loop here and figure this thing out. Okay, so I mean, is it always just about the Mets now? Every time, every time we turn it on, it's like the I know. Yeah, well, it's you know what it is. It's like the dominoes. The Mets seem to be like the first domino to fall, right? Like I mean, everything is going to circle around them. Steve Cohen, the new money, the new toy. What are they going to do? Are they going to sign Bauer? Are they going to sign this guy? Are they going to sign that guy? And I'm sure that if I was an agent, I would be advising my clients to not do anything. To first go for that Met. Yeah, yeah, like right. Like it's just it's make sure that Met money is starting to get spent first before you make any kind of move. Now the funny thing is that sort of like drives up your own prices and your own terms maybe, which you and I talked about in the last show. You can go check that out. But you don't want to like start bidding against yourself because inevitably what's going to happen is it's not going to work out well. I mean, it might work out okay in the short term, but in the long term, even if you have the money to pay these contracts off, they just become albatrosses over your roster and they hamstring what you're trying to do in years later. And Cohen has said like he wants to get a championship within the first 3 to 5 years. But I mean, he wants the team to be relevant every year, and you can't do that by just yeah, like you can't do that. And we'll talk about the Marlins too, who made the other big news of the week. Like, you can't just saddle yourself with these contracts and expect to be winners emeritus in baseball in the 2020s. Yeah, of course not. Right, like now he's got to, overperform to 10 million a year valuation, right? I mean, like who the hell wants that? Now, nah, now this kid can hit. Who's this kid? What is this kid doing on my team? So, okay, I- the the first thing is we talked about, we got into a little bit about what their priority should be. Um, I just find it really, really hard to imagine that the Trevor Bauer Met Love Fest is gonna not end up with him wearing a Met uniform at this point. He might just be doing it to go for the dough. He might be doing it because he really wants to. But let's just say Bauer's the first domino to fall. Does he set the market for everybody, or does he just set the market for pitchers? That's the first question to me of the entire offseason. He's he's going to get the top for this class. Well, I mean, listen, Jason Bay was a name that was like on the tip of my tongue as we started this segment because that is your first year potential Met nightmare, right? Like that you do not want, yeah. So what you don't want is that you've overpaid one of these guys in terms of years, in terms of, money per year, money for the length of the contract, and they come to New York and they can't take it, and they flop, and it turns out to be just a bad deal for the guy, a bad deal for the team. It's the era of bad feeling, and then other guys end up not wanting to come there, except for they have no other choice, and you're going to open your checkbook for them, right? So, look, we've seen it before, right? Where big market teams, and it's not just in baseball, it's in all the sports. They get mismanaged, despite having a world and a wealth of assets, right? Like, I mean, look at the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks used to be the toast of New York, and they've been just downright awful for like it's 20 years now, and they have more money, and it's like in the NBA, right? Because you get the best guy, and it's like that's a fifth of your team. So, they have in the NBA a salary cap, but the salary cap doesn't exactly like hamstring teams if you know how to manage it like a little bit, and they have no idea how to do that. And in baseball, you don't have a salary cap; you have luxury tax, and it doesn't benefit you to exceed that luxury tax by a lot. Teams that do that generally are usually. I mean, it would be hard to exceed the luxury tax in baseball and not be like at least 500 or over. But every now and then, you get a Red Sox move where like they bottom out, and then they somehow the Dodgers let them off the hook and take some of their guys away, and it ends up working out only because you have savvy general management. Like it, the Mets could screw this up. Like they really could screw it up. It would be crazy for them to just sprint into this market and say, "Look, these are the best guys and we're going to get the best guys this year." Because you know what? You have to assess what do you have behind them at that position. What's the cost difference in terms of like, okay, I have a 22-year-old guy coming up to play the same position as George Springer. I'm not saying they do, but that's how you have to weigh George Springer. Do we want no? But I'm saying well, right. That's why it does make more sense in their case. But if you run into deals like that, maybe the better free agent for that position for the long term is out there next year or in 2 years. And if you pull the trigger on that guy now, right, or right, it's your guy. Hopefully, that's the way it is. You develop the guys and then you can keep them and sign them to long-term deals. But like otherwise, you end up hamstringing the franchise by acting too early. The big criticism of this is not it's not a free agent deal, but this is the big negative criticism of the Yankees being able to acquire Giancarlo Stanton at pennies for the dollar prices from the Marlins a few years ago, because the Yankees, you could make a really good argument that they didn't need him, and there could have been other guys. I mean, the Marlins traded Christian Yelich for pennies on the dollar the same year, and you would have given 5 times as much for Yelich. He's turned out to be far the superior player because first of all he stays on the field, but he just looks like he's just better, right, at this point. And Stanton, we saw a flash of it in the playoffs where he was hitting a home run every game. And, if that's the guy you're getting, then he starts to look like he's worth that contract. But really, like, what you see the Yankees doing is, okay, how many times can we play this guy in the outfield? How many times can we DH him? How do we set, we have Judge over here, and, who are we going to put here? Who are we going to put there? You have Aaron Hicks on, I guess you'd call it like sort of a team friendly deal, 7 years, 70 million. I think he's like 2 or 3 years through that deal. And he has trouble staying on the field. You got three guys that would be your normal outfield. That would be a sick outfield if they actually played all the time, but they don't. So you have to plug in these Talkmans and these other guys, right? And say you have, which they do, a stud coming up who plays the outfield. You're going to clear out space. How are you going to do that? How are you going to clear Stanton out? If you make Stanton your everyday DH, that's a huge commitment. It changes the whole aspect of your team. You can't rotate you can't rotate your infield and give a guy a day off every 10 days from playing in the field. Like you can't move guys around, you can't rest guys. Like if Stanton's your DH every day. So, the more he can play the field, the better it is for them. But yeah. Well, they had that 14-1 streak. It wasn't that young. He wasn't that young. He wasn't that. He wa- right. It was. Right. It wasn't 22. It wasn't 20. Right. He was like, yeah, it was 28. Yeah. Wow. That's the key. Yeah. Uncle Paul doesn't want Tanaka. I will gladly. I want Tanaka back. He's like my favorite Yankee. He's even and he's even better. Even better if there's no DH. Right? He'll just mow people down. Well, well, he could hit. He played in Japan. A lot of those Japanese pitchers are come over and are good hitters. Otani, brap. He's you know. So you and I are in different camps, except for we both think George Springer is like the no-brainer. But I mean, there is a limit, right? Like, I mean, are you going to pay George Springer? Are you going to pay him 30 million a year? No, I wouldn't pay him 30 million a year. He's not that, but like, how high would you go? Like 22 a year for 5 years? Like, that sounds probably like, is that going to get him, or is he going to get more than that from somebody somewhere? And that deal, you can't even compare those guys. I mean, well, no, defensively he is. I mean, and he's not better offensively than Nemo. He's just streaky. Well, he'd be. I mean, listen, if you platooned Marisnik and Jackie Bradley, that would be a pretty good platoon in center field as long as you could bat them seventh. I mean, if you could bat him seventh or lower, but if you have Springer, you have a guy that you could plop, right in the. Oh God, come on, Uncle Paul. Um, so yeah, at least well, Uncle Paul he has migrated over to the Facebook page from the Facebook group. So that's good news. So we got the most important person over. We got Uncle Paul moved over. We're good on that. So the priority is definitely Springer, right? But you and I totally disagree. You want okay, and I am all for Bauer because I think I would rather I'd rather swing for the fences and miss on the pitcher than I would for the catcher because there's still a chance that like the pitcher could have some usefulness even in a different role. Like say he gets hurt or whatever. Like okay, maybe he can come back as a reliever and maybe, he becomes one of these like 3 inning relief guys and you change the way that you're doing things based on all this data that we saw in 2020 with the truncated season and bringing guys in for 3 innings, whatever. I'd rather swing and miss on the pitcher if I'm going to spend it. I'd rather go for that because the catchers are just the attrition rate's too high. I was wrong last show about Real Muto's age. He's like pushing 30 already, and I just don't know what I'm gonna get out of him. I wanna if I'm signing Real Muto, I'm signing him to catch 100 games a year in the regular season, and then play behind the plate, almost every game with maybe a game off here or there through the playoffs. That's how I'm signing him. So to me, you got to sign him, and have somebody else that's like also capable back there. Like you got to have two guys if you want to extend his life out at all for me. So yeah, but the catcher is gonna. Yeah, okay. So go, dude. You could get, but you could go. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like there are defensive catchers out there. I mean, you could go get like Austin Hedges. Like you could get Mike Zanino. I mean, yeah, it's no. I mean, he's yeah, but he's a good he's to me he's like a really good. I didn't even see that by the way. I just like brought up his name because he was a guy that like he's been in the league a few years. He's a good defensive guy. He pops the ball out of the park every now and then. He's not the hitter that they hoped he would be, but defensively he's really good. And the Indians got him for next to nothing. I mean, he was a spare part in the Clevenger deal. So you know, well, that's what I'm saying. Like but he's good. Like he's a good, solid, like number two catcher. Who if the first guy gets hurt, like he's not going to kill you if you have him back there. Again, if he's like as long as you can keep him in the bottom three of your order, he's fine, and you don't want to catch him 100 games a year. But if you have Real Muto catching 100 games a year and Hedges catching the other 62 or thereabout, and you have a way to put Real Muto in the lineup for most of those other 62 games, then it's a win. What you're saying with the injury bug, pitcher versus catcher is just that steady, steep decline. Pitchers like when they get hurt, they're just like, okay, he's out for the year. He's having Tommy John, and we'll check in, and he'll be back next year throwing 3 miles an hour harder. Like Peter Fairbanks. I mean, right, and he's in a lot of cases they're even better. Yeah, but here's the other thing. If you're talking about, and this is like really inside baseball here. If you're talking about a pitcher missing an entire season and having a big paycheck, if he misses that season, you're collecting the insurance on that. So you've effectively just made it one less year without extending that year at the back of the contract. So that's maybe another reason why, like, again, if a pitcher is going to have a steady steep decline like that, he's not going to be good. Right, but Yeah, but I mean, it's way less than you'd have to pay a guy like Bauer's going to get like 30 million a year probably from somebody somewhere, and it's just a matter of you going to do 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it ends up being. If for some reason he unfortunately through that deal like I mean let's just say anybody, that's Verlander right now, right? Verlander's going to miss this season. And what is he, 36 million or he would have been or something? And okay, so the Astros won't have to pay all that. They'll pay, whatever portion of it they had paid in their insurance premium, and they'll get the rest of that paid off. So I don't know. I mean that Verlander deal ended up being a year shorter than they had to sign him for. But again, the less that you can, flatten the curve. Flatten the curve. Put a mask on that guy. Flatten the curve for the guy who wears the mask. Yeah. Well, what's so interesting though, because with with the Mets, if they get the DH, I mean that changes their longer term. It changes their short term and their long term plan. Like like right now, like if you said that there's going to be a DH in the National League from here on in, then guess what? You can sign Jackie Bradley and George Springer. You could sign both of them, and you could, you know, move put Bradley in center. Platoon him with Marisnik. That's a really great, platoon. And you put Springer in right and move Conforto to left, and you have Dom Smith and Pete Alonso just trading off at DH, right? I mean, that improves your defense up the middle. I mean, who knows, right? Who knows? Well, right, you could, but I'm just saying if you well, the thing is, he's not going to be that expensive, and he really, he greatly improves your defense. Yeah, I mean, he's a great center fielder. He's great. Yeah. Well, I'll do that right now, right? Well, eh, he's well, that's the other thing. Let's talk GMs for a second, okay? Because right now Theo Epstein is available, but he's taking a year off. So so what do you do? So you think he goes president rather than GM? Uh, what I heard is that he wants an ownership stake as well. Well, yeah, yeah. That ain't the dog talking. That's usually the liquor talking, but tonight it's the dog talking. Well, so well, I mean, look, he's a you know he's a needle mover. He's a franchise, from the bedrock all the way up changer, right? Like dude, he broke the Red Sox and the Cubs curses. I mean, like that's like if you said to somebody in 2003, right? Yeah, but I mean, their curse isn't even like that long compared to the other two. Maybe you should go to the Indians. But if you said in 2000 that, okay, guess what, there's going to be a guy that comes along and he's going to be, well, he was already there probably practically by then, but um he's going to break the Red Sox curse and he's going to put them well on their way to being the most successful franchise of the first 2 decades of the 2000s, and he's going to jump ship after a few years of that, and then he's going to go break the Cubs curse and make the Cubs into a perennial winner. You'd be like, wait, same dude? Okay, whatever. Okay, so he's going to break the Red Sox and the Cubs curse, and that's exactly what he did. So if he takes a year off, yeah, I mean, he's really gonna. What's he gonna do? I mean, he's only gonna get like more opportunities, right? Like, and have plenty of time to leaf through them, isn't he? And like de facto, and then and be like his own GM, sort of. The thing is, so did the Mets name a G? Did the Mets name a GM under Sandy? Then bring in Theo Epstein in a year, and then what's he going to do? He's going to clean house, change direction. I mean, it's sort of a. I mean, that would be a weird. He'd have to deal with whatever free agents and stuff that he signed now. Like, that's the one place where it doesn't. And he wants a piece of ownership, and you have a guy who just bought the team, and he had to struggle and go through this 5 times, and then De Blasio even steps in at the end, and it starts being a tough asshole, and like those sort of like the whole idea of it sounds good, but then like you start to add up the parts, and you're like, it doesn't actually seem like the opportunity that he would go for. But then again, like where else would he go, right? I don't know. What about this? Here's one you haven't thought of. What if he ended up on the Yankees? What if he became the Yankee guru after this whole thing settles out? You retreated the hill. I mean, let's face it. He's not going to be another one. He wouldn't be another one of the guys because Brian Cashman's been there forever. Cashman has taken that whole thing and flipped it on its head. He's been there forever. And now, this was the 11th year, right? The 11th season that the Yankees didn't win a World Series. That's basically in Yankee land, that's like a Red Sox drought. I mean, that's like the equivalent to going 86 years without winning one. So, I mean, not really, but like kinda when you look at their history, right? Like they had never gone a decade without winning one, and here they are full on, and they've won one since 2001. So it's very possible. I mean, is he going is he's not going to the Dodgers, right? I don't think he'd be going to the Dodgers. He could go to maybe the Giants, but they're not as marquee a franchise. I mean, they're pretty awesome. I mean, do the Braves rank up there? The Braves don't really rank up there. I mean, you'd feel like if the Mets would have to sort of put everything they're doing on hold for a year, and if you knew that he was your guy and you knew you wanted him to come in, you really would. I mean, look, how about this? If the Mets pretty much stand pat this off season, then he's coming. If the Mets stand pat, he's coming. And if they don't, and they make if they make minor moves, right? If they make minor moves, then probably he's coming. If they start signing Bauer and they start signing Springer and every other dude, then he's probably not coming because he's going to be like, okay, well, I mean, these guys already have their stuff, and I'd have to undo this and undo that, and the more undos that he has to do. I don't know. We'll have him on. We'll get him on. We're gonna get him on next week's show. He refused to come on until we could get Dawg streaming on on Twitch. Dude, it's 2020. Why the hell would you not want to take a year off? Like, you out of your mind? Like, if you could afford to just not take a $10 million check and have a year off, like, wouldn't you just totally do that? I mean, yeah. Why would you? Maybe he wants to run one of the Korean League teams. Yeah, he should just run one of the. Yeah, he'll just run one of the Korean League teams that he's been watching overnight from wherever from his yacht somewhere. Why not? Yeah. So yeah. All right. Let's talk about. So we're in GM speak here. One GM that he. I don't know if he's going to be if Theo Epstein's going to be running to Miami next year, but if he does, he will have Kim Eng as his general manager, and that was really groundbreaking move here in the major leagues. The first female GM running a team in at least a North American major league sport, as far as I know, and from nearby to me, Ridgewood, New Jersey. I think she went to Ridgewood High School. She was like a year ahead of my year. I didn't go there, but she's been a familiar name around these parts in New Jersey, and she's been a baseball lifer, and as pretty much anybody. Yeah, well, at the White Sox, the White Sox. I mean, she started out as an intern, but she was with the Yankees, she was with the Dodgers, the White Sox, and now she's with Jeter and Mattingly. So there was the Yankee pedigree there for her, and as people in the know have said, she's been ready to run a team for like 10 years, but now she actually gets her opportunity, and the Marlins were one of our darling teams this year, Dawg, in the 60 game truncated season. Or do they need to? Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? You have to look at, they're another team that, depending on what the rules are going to be this year, um, they may be set up or they may be due for a dip. Um, maybe they're going to have to get managed a lot the way the Rays were and the way the Rays have been, where you got, an arsenal of guys. They have a lot of young guys. They're not even getting retreads. Like, they got guys that are, they've stockpiled for years. So whereas the Rays, like, they pick this guy from this organization and this guy from that organization, and then, all of a sudden they come to Tampa and, they have every guy throws from a different arm angle. And, the Marlins just have like five guys under, right. And they're all like under, and they're all like, and the Marlin guys are all like, 25 and under, right? Like they're studs to begin with. So, how do you manage that team? Like, do you pour money into it? Do you say, all right, we have some really good position players here. We got some really good pitchers. What do we do? Do we sign these guys and do what you were talking about with, the way you want to do with guys like Conforto and everything? Sign them for, longer term deals before they hit free agency, flatten it out, and then you don't have to keep shipping these guys off at as they're about to hit free agency, right? So it's different strategies. It's always better to be in the position where you have the pitching, because and that's again, we'll get back to the Bauer argument, but if you the more of those innings that are quality innings, the easier it is to forgive, a catcher that can't hit but is good defensively. A second baseman who can hit but isn't that good defensively. And, a first base platoon of, one guy that you picked up off the scrap heap who's 33, but all of a sudden he's kind of finding himself, and, another guy who's just coming up, and, you only want to play him against lefties. Like, you could get away with that stuff a little bit more when you can get those 1,400 innings, like shrunk down where you're scrambling for guys, and they seem to be deep there. So, how is Kim Ing going to manage these assets? How closely is she going to work with Don Mattingly and get on the same page? Are we going to start seeing them, be the Rays South? They're a little further south, right? Like it's and look look at the horses that they yeah, but you have the horses in the NL East to compete with, right? You have the Braves, you have the Braves, who were close to getting on all the way here this year. You have the Nationals, who are a year removed from winning the World Series, and I think we expect them to probably bounce back. You have the Mets, who now have an owner who I think oh wow, breaking news, did you see this? Steve Cohen just bought Mars. He now owns the planet Mars. So the Mets will be developing some guys up there. Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah, he bought that before he bought Mars. It was a contingency deal. Um, so he had an option for Mars when he bought SpaceX. So you have some nukes, and right, and then you have the Phillies, right, who are looking for a GM. That could be another Theo Epstein place to land, right? If they don't fill that GM slot, or they put like sort of an interimish guy there, right? He's got a lot to work with. They got some deep pockets, some signature guys. Well, no, that just 2007, 8, 9. Right. They didn't sustain it quite long enough. They needed to sustain it. They needed to add like a second title. And the Braves get a new stadium every like 7 years, because apparently you need one. It's crazy. Like the Turner Field and the Georgia Dome, I still thought of those as like pretty new stadiums, and they're both gone. They're both replaced by like these sick places. Yeah. But I mean, you guys can't replace your voting machines? How about some how about some new voting machines, guys? Yeah, we can't fit that in. But the Mercedes, dome, or whatever the hell you call it, is awesome. Yeah. All right, so we got the. Wait, one more thing on Kim Ing. Is she going to be like like overly judged? Like, are people gonna start caring about like every move the Marlins make here for the short term because she's under a microscope, or are they still the Marlins where they make these moves in relative anonymity? Like even when they were trading away Stanton and Yelich, it wasn't like you know that big of a deal, except for the fact that like Jeter was behind it, and people were like, "Oh, people hate Jeter down here. He's gutting the team," and blah 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 blah. I mean, what's the o what's the over under on the date that she fleeces the Royals for Jorge Soler? Would we go December 15th before or after? You don't you don't know if you want pitchers that can hit. Always get pitchers that can hit. You never know when you're going to need them to hit. Happy birthday, Seth Lugo, by the way. For, there it is. Like 10 years ago, right? And Steve Cohen has just renamed it Seaver Field. He wrote a $60 million check. he he wrote a $60 million check back to City, and he's like, "Yeah, we don't need the sponsorship money anymore. We're just naming it Seaver Field." And as you walk into City Field now, you will walk in through the Tom Seaver Rotunda. Yeah, you never know, right? He could. I know, but I mean, he was a Dodger. He was in New York. It's weird. I mean, maybe in the Hall of Fame, in the Hall of Fame, it would be nice to walk in through the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. And City Field, it kind of doesn't really make a hell of a lot of sense. But you know, I mean, it's still nice. I still love the park. Hey, I heard that in 2023 they might start allowing people back into parks. Yeah. I, where have I heard that before? I know. We're walking the line of politics right now, which is crazy because you get Syndergaard back, but he doesn't get the vaccine and he gets COVID, and then you have to wait a couple of more weeks, and then he comes back even stronger because it turns out that COVID like double strengthens your arm. Yeah. Wait, why is Syndergaard coming to the mound in a helicopter? What's that all about? Can he just walk? No. Uh, uh, you sound like an old man. You sound like in the you sound like in the Jerky Boys, where he's like, "You sound like a young kid. How old are you, sir?" That's what you sound like. Oh wow, I didn't see I didn't see all of the Uncle Paul comments. I was trying to I'm trying to multitask over here. Yeah, there have to be. I mean, they might they might not necessarily be front and center all the time, like if they work for agencies and stuff. But like these agencies, I think are pretty diversified. I mean, when you're talking about lead agents, it's not always in 2020 like just one person representing one player. It's they sit down for negotiations, and you have a team of 3 4 people maybe, and your people meet with my people. Yeah, but they're also yeah, but they have their right hand people that are with them. I mean, they're not always like necessarily negotiating the deals. It's they're front and center of their agencies and stuff, right? So, not that uncommon. And listen, I mean, that's the way it should be. I mean, best person for the job, whoever it is, if she's gonna get Trevor Bauer the right deal, and that's possible. Luba? I don't know. Google it. Google it. We're gonna have her on the show next. We're gonna we're gonna have her on the show next week. Next week with Kim Ing, but only if she's done signing, getting Trevor Bauer. Yeah, if she gets him in. All right, I think we covered everything we needed to cover for Tuesday Night Live. If you want to follow the dog on Twitter, it's Jeff Healy 8. That's the numeral 8. If you want to follow me, Joe Rizzo, Rear Naked Choke, all one word. That's on Twitter. Joe Rizzo MMA on Instagram. Dog still does not have an Instagram. I feel like with the streaming that we've started tonight, and we will get better at this, we promise. Um, and in a way, I sort of feel like we've de-emphasized Instagram, but I don't think we're going to de-emphasize it that much. I think we're just growing by leaps and bounds in different channels. So on Twitch, we are Diamond Diehards. On Twitter and Instagram, we are at Diamond Diehards. And YouTube, let me see. I'll look at YouTube. I don't think we're. I don't. No, I don't think we have that yet. I mean, if you Google if you look at YouTube, if you go to YouTube and you put in Diamond Diehard, you'll find us. I think. It's just not YouTube.com/Diamond. Yeah, it's like a weird looking like URL kind of thing. So, well, that's for we're doing that on purpose. We wanted to, yeah, test purposes. Um, And let's see, we got Twitch, Facebook.com/Diamond Diehards. That's where you're getting the best live stream today. But you'll be able to, you know, find it on whichever app: Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, wherever you want to find it. You'll find it live, and those shows will stay up there. Like me, if you are a podcast listener type person where you like to just put a podcast on, go for a long walk, I'm not as much of a video guy, I'm not as much of a live stream guy myself. And what I like to do is I like to pop in the AirPods and listen to my podcasts and whatever I'm doing if I can. So we want you to do that for us. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you find your podcasts. Check us out there. We got some sponsorships working, and if you think that is something that you're interested in, then feel free to contact us on one of these 8 zillion social media platforms that we just gave you, and we'd love to. Yeah, yeah, the army, the friggin' army should. Yeah, and, we should be open and willing to hear all conversations along those lines. Stuff is in the works right now that we're really really excited about, and this is the first step toward that. So I think, God, I think that's gonna do it for this one. That will do it. We will wrap it up here. Good dog. Anything? Did I miss anything? Did I catch everything? I got it all? Okay. I think I want it all. That'll do it. And I just want to give a special shout out to Jerry Milani. A special thanks again. I got him at the beginning, but he's really, really done so much behind the scenes to help us get even to this point, and then especially for this show. So thanks, Jerry. For the dog, Jeff Healy. This is Joe Rizzo. Thanks for listening to Diamond Diehards. It is the baseball off season, but we're just getting started. Diamond Diehards is out.